UFC Fight Night Atlanta is right around the corner. We got Joaquin Buckley taking on the established vet in Kamaru Usman. Joaquin Buckley has been a surging prospect since like 2022. He's had a couple setbacks over the last couple years, but has come back each time very improved. And this last streak that he's been on has been very impressive. So not a surprise that he's getting a matchup like Kamaru Usman, but it's a classic change into the guards, in my opinion. We have a surging prospect in Buckley and a established vet, somewhat becoming a little bit of a gatekeeper, in my opinion. If Joaquin beats Kamaru, he's got some really big fights ahead of him in the welterweight division, but Kamaru has a chance to prove that the old dog still got it. Old dog still got some bite. So I always love these matchups when, old UFC vets are paired up against young, hungry up-and-comers. It always creates a really fun dynamic for the fight. And I think these guys are going to get in there and bang. But we're going to break down the card and give our predictions on how we think this one's going to play out. So starting off the card, hot again. What is with the UFC starting off these cards with a women's fight? Unless the women's fight is like Wong Tong from last weekend, I don't want to see him. At least starting out a card, for fuck's sake. Anyways, we have Vanessa Demopoulos and Jamie Lynn Horth. This is a classic striker versus jiu-jitsu grappler matchup. Both are very mids, in my opinion. Jamie Lynn has been inconsistent in her last few fights. I think she's like 2-2 in her last 4, so she's had some trouble stringing together some consistency. And Vanessa is coming off of 2 straight losses, so you start flirting with 3 straight losses, especially when you have a record like 11-7 and you don't really put on any memorable performances. Probably staring down the barrel of Uncle Dana giving you a call and telling you to go get fucked. So Vanessa is most likely fighting for her spot on the UFC roster. 11-7. Fuck. Flyweight division. Come on. But yeah, classic jiu-jitsu versus striking. If Vanessa is able to get a takedown, she's definitely going to be the more physical girl in there. Like, I think she's going to have no problem holding Horth down if she's able to get a takedown, and I do think she is going to. And that's going to play a large part in this fight. So she doesn't have a whole lot of a chance if it stays standing. Her striking's not as bad as Mackenzie Dern, I'll give her that. But it's nothing to be marveled at. So the longer that Jamie Horth keeps this on the feet, the better her chances are for edging out a win. But I could very easily see Vanessa taking her down early and keeping her there, getting some good control time. But her takedown accuracy is not very great, as you see there. Like, for a striker, Jamie has a higher takedown accuracy than Vanessa. But I don't really see a whole lot of avenues for Vanessa to win this other than getting takedowns. So I'm going to go with Jamie Horth on this one. I don't know why the odds aren't showing up for these first 2 fights, but we're going with Jamie Lynn to start off. Moving on, Philip Rowe and Ange Lusa. I don't know if you guys remember this, but Ange Lusa, not his last fight, but I believe it was his second to last fight, was against Brian Battle. And it was weird. He got eye poked. Usually when you get an eye poke, the ref will give you 5 minutes. He did not take the full 5 minutes, I believe. I think he made a pretty quick decision of, I can't see. And Brian Battle was beating on him. It was not looking good for my man Lusa. So the referee stops the fight. Lusa says he can't see. It looked kind of like a Henry Cejudo almost, where even on the couch you could go, okay, I can see that you're not, it doesn't look like it's bothering you, right? And who knows, but Brian Battle was furious, and after the no contest was called, they about had a scrap in the cage after the fight was called. So it was definitely an odd ending, and I think Lusa did take the way out, the coward's way out, if you will. I think he could see. I think he knew that was going to be a long night at the office for him. But now he's got a Phil Rowe standing in front of him. Phil Rowe is, I don't want to call him a can, but he's 100% the welterweight gatekeeper. Like, if you can't beat Phil Rowe, you're not going to make anything of yourself in the welterweight division unless you make some substantial changes in your fight game. Phil Rowe is very one-dimensional. I'm not saying that he's not a great striker, but like he wants to take things down to the ground and get some subs, right? I don't really think that he's going to be knocking Lusa out. I think his method of victory is definitely going to be on the ground. If he can get on the back, that'd be great. But I don't know. Phil Rowe is just one of those guys that kind of, not like Kevin Holland, because he's not the caliber of fighter that Kevin Holland is. Kevin Holland is, in my opinion, a lot more skilled and well-rounded. It just depends on what version of him steps in there, and we've seen that with Phil Rowe. He steps in there sometimes and he looks like he doesn't want to be there. He doesn't belong. And then other matchups, he gets in the cage and he looks really fucking good. So this one really, really is going to depend on which version of Phil Rowe shows up, but I think his method of victory here is probably going to be on the ground. Even though he's known for like his kind of jiu-jitsu, it's not very strong. Like, his submission threat isn't huge, but pretty sure he has, 4 by sub, so it's there, it's present. Lusa's going to have to be cognizant of the submission threat. If he does get taken down, he's not going to have to worry about just ground and pound. But I really don't see a lot of avenues for Phil Rowe really winning this fight. I think physicality-wise, I mean, look at the difference here. My man is built like a fucking brick shitter. So you got Jack's Beanstalk on one side and a Whirlpool fucking fridge on the other. So, not saying that has everything to do with the fight, but grappling-wise, the physicality of Lusa might negate any type of advantage that Phil Rowe might have had on the ground. So, I'm going to go with Angelusa here. He's probably going to get it done via finish, but I could also see this being dragged out to a decision as well, so don't hold your breath. Onwards, Ricky Simone and Charles Jourdain. Ricky Simone is, like, he's not a waste of talent, because he still is putting on, fun fights. Like, even when he lost against Song Yadong, like, that was a banger of a fight. He went out on his shield. Mario Bautista is, very likely going to be fighting for a bantamweight title in the near future. He just disposed of Patchy Mix very easily last weekend. And so, like, he always puts on fun fights. I like Ricky Simone. He doesn't always have the highest fight IQ, and that's got him in trouble sometimes. But I do think he is way more dangerous on the feet than Charles Jourdain. Jourdain's got better striking, but as far as finishing abilities, I don't think Charles is going to be able to put Simone out. I just don't. Which is crazy, because Jourdain got knocked out by Silva, got knocked out by Woodson, or got beat by Woodson. Jesus Christ. Can't read this morning. And then he just recently subbed Victor Henry, who, it's Victor Henry. Not much to write home about. But Ricky Simone was coming off of a couple fight loss and ended up flatlining his last opponent in front of a very, very hyped up crowd. It was a very good bounce back for Ricky Simone. And it'll be interesting. I mean, this fight is 1000% going to hit the ground, in my opinion. Ricky Simón is a grimy wrestler. He's got good takedown penetration. I don't think that Charles is going to be able to keep him off his hips. If Charles Jourdain takes command of the center of the octagon, this fight is much more in his favor. But if he lets Ricky Simón put him on his back foot, get him closer to the cage, cut off his angles of him being able to get off the cage, I think it could be a really, really long night for Charles Jourdain. I could see this either being a very quick finish by Simón, or I could see him just grinding down Charles or Jourdain, maybe getting like a third round finish. But I think Ricky Simón is going to put the pace on him. He's going to bring that like wrestler just pressure. That's going to be the key to this, I think. Ricky Simón is just going to bring the heat, and Charles Jourdain is just going to crumble, I think. So I'm going to go with Ricky Simón. I think he's feeling good after getting his feet underneath him with his last fight. So hopefully he keeps the momentum. I like Ricky Simón. I think he's obviously very small for the bantamweight division. He's going to be at a size disadvantage against most people he goes up against. But I like him. I think he adds a little bit of flair to the division as far as wrestling goes. Because he's not like super boring. He doesn't do the whole Dagestani, get you up against the fence, just fucking body head, Dagestani handcuff, trip you, mat return, back up to the fence. No, he's wrestling you to dump you on your fucking head and then viciously ground and pound. So I like that. I have no problem with wrestlers if that's their avenue that they're going to go, but it's another story when you have someone that just gets in the clinch, wrestles up against the fence, doesn't do a whole lot there, stays active enough to keep the ref from getting in between them, mat returns every once in a while. Like, that shit, get the fuck out of here. I digress. Ricky Simón is going to get it done versus Charles Jourdain. Lock that shit in. Cody Durden and Jose Ochoa. Cody Durden is, again, like, I hate using the word mid, but he kind of reminds me of like a Jimmy Flick. Part-time UFC fighter, part-time local meth cook, you know? Not as much a meth cook as Cody Durden as Jimmy Flick was. Jimmy Flick looked like he had like Arkansas on lock. But Cody is just one of those guys that every time I see him step in the octagon, I have a very hard time believing that he's in the biggest fight promotion in the world or in the United States. As far as skill just goes, like I think I heard a couple guys talking about like Juliana Pena, for instance. Not saying that they're comparable because one was a champion and this guy's never going to get fucking close to sniffing title contention. But this is the best of what we got in the world, Cody Durden. Every time I watch him, I'm like, I can't believe that this skill is what we're considering to be the best in the world. And he's very similar to Ricky Simón in that he's extremely grimy. He makes fights dirty. That's his way of winning. He wants to make the fight not technical. Cody Durden wants to make it. He wants you to engage in a firefight. He wants you to throw your game plan out the window. He wants to put enough pressure on you to where you have no choice but to engage in his style of fight. And that is always his method of winning, is making you fight that nasty fight. So if Jose can stay to his game plan, like he's probably gonna have a pretty easy job. Like, I'm not super. We've only seen this guy fight in the UFC once. He lost, right? Didn't go his way. But if this cat can counterpunch in any capacity, that's gonna be a great way to put some licks on Cody Durden, because Cody Durden is going to put pressure on you to try and close that distance. Like, he wants to be in that really close boxing range. So if Jose can get a good counter-striking game plan going, I could see him presenting a lot of problems for Cody. But if Cody can make this a dirty fight and can get things against the cage, we might see Cody Durden squeak out a fucking decision. But I don't see Jose submitting Cody. I think the method of victory for Jose is going to be a TKO. He seems like he really wants to put people out. From what I've seen, he walks in that cage to put his opponent out. So I'm going to go with Jose. There's a 10-year age gap here too. That's very difficult to ignore. I'm not going to say that that's going to be the only factor in how this fight plays out, but that is a very big age gap. And I'm sure there's some crazy statistic out there that the UFC has on percentage of fighters that win with a 10-year age discrepancy. It's one thing if it's just an age discrepancy, but we've also got a skill discrepancy here. This kid is developing his skills quickly. Cody has been at his peak for as long as I've been watching the UFC. So ceiling for Jose much, much higher. I think he's going to get it done relatively easy. I say that with an asterisk because Cody does have a knack for making shit dirty and turning things into his kind of fight. So I don't want to completely write off Cody Durden. I think that's why the odds makers have this so closely contested, is because they know that he has a very good skill at doing that. But I do think Jose gets this one done. Moving on, Malcolm Wellmaker versus Chris Mutino. Malcolm Wellmaker just came off his UFC debut and ended it emphatically. Face planted his opponent, knocked him out cold, quit his job. He's a full-time UFC fighter now. Love to see it. I think Malcolm, we didn't get to see a whole lot out of him in his debut because it went so quickly. But I think we're going to see him have to spend a little bit more time in the octagon here with Chris Mutino. We have seen Chris Mutino be a human punching bag for 3 rounds. I mean, he took an incredible amount of damage from Sean O'Malley before Sean O'Malley fought for the title. And he's been active. He's been active since he got out of the UFC. I'm going to go ahead and say that most of these guys are going to be cans. So that was this guy's 3rd fight. Somewhat kind of decent, I guess. 0-5. So, like, they're trying to build his confidence up, but you can't really build your confidence up when you're beating guys that are actual scrubs. 0-4, 0-5, 2-4. This dude's fucking 38 and just sent him into retirement, so it's hilarious they have retirement in there. So it's good. He's on a 5-fight win streak since he lost to Sean O'Malley and got knocked out subsequently in his 2nd fight. So, great. You got 5 wins, but they're all against scrubs. And now you're going to come back into the UFC against a very game and talented, potentially talented. We still need to see a little bit more of his game. But Malcolm Wellmaker is not on the same level as the 5 guys that you just fought on the fucking regional scene. So let's think about this for a minute. If Chris Mutino did not go down to the regional scene and fight 5 scrubs, he would be 9-6 right now. Okay? Just throwing that out there. But Malcolm Wellmaker is going to absolutely destroy Chris Mutino. I am never, ever confident in fights because it's the fight game. We've seen it time and time again. You can be, a little bit more confident here and there, but this one I have so much confidence in. It's going to be a one-sided beatdown. Chris Mutino is going to get finished unless he made some drastic changes to his style. He's going to sit there on center line, not move his head, and get fucking brutalized by Malcolm. So, easy lock right here. Malcolm Wellmaker's going to get it done, improve to 10-0, and then hopefully they give him like an actual, somewhat unranked test. Chris Mutino, first fight back in the UFC after a very short stint, and then 5 regional scrub fights that he's won. So, hopefully a very quick fight for Malcolm Wellmaker, makes quick work of Chris Mutino, and then they actually give him someone worth a damn in his next fight and build him up. Moving on, Michael Chiesa and Court McGee. Battle of the old fucks. Court McGee is 40 years old. Chiesa's 37. He hung on to his UFC contract by an absolute thread in his last fight against Tim Means, which Tim Means is exactly who you want to fight if you're on a 3-fight skid. Let's just throw that out there. If you're on a 3-fight skid and the UFC calls you and says, "Hey, Court, you want to take on Tim Means?" I'd be fucking ecstatic if I were Court. Absolutely. I'll fight him tomorrow. So, think about that. Court McGee would be 0-4 in his last four fights if he did not get gifted that Tim Means fight. And then Michael Chiesa, very inconsistent. Right? He was on a fat losing streak. I want to say it was even 4. It was 3. Okay. 3-fight win streak, and then he gets, again, gifted a Tony Ferguson. And you could make the argument, oh, Michael Chiesa's washed too, he's old too, blah, blah, blah. No. He didn't sit in the octagon with Justin Gaethje for 15 minutes and get his brains splattered against the inside of his skull. We all know Tony Ferguson was forever changed that night, and anyone that fought Tony Ferguson after Justin Gaethje had a completely different Ferguson standing in front of them. So he was gifted Tony Ferguson, and then he got a pretty legit sub against Max Payne Griffin. So Chiesa's always going to be a threat on the ground. He's got really good jiu-jitsu. Pretty sure his go-to is kind of a Darce Anaconda, very similar to what we saw Kevin Holland hit Luque with this last weekend. But 2 old dudes scrapping, it's like 2 drunk uncles at the family barbecue. This is kind of a tough one to call here. I do think Chiesa is going to be able to get a takedown. Court McGee is... These are honestly, the old guy fights and the old women fights are the hardest. It's just like, Court McGee's probably getting out of bed these days and shit's popping and hurting, and you don't know what Court McGee's going to walk in there, right? Like, both of these guys are at this point in their career banged up without a doubt. So it's hard to make these calls when it comes down to older fighters. But I think Michael Chiesa presents a little bit more of a well-rounded game. I think if it does hit the ground, he's going to be a lot more dangerous and present some real submission threats to Court McGee. Whereas Court McGee, I think his only method of victory here is going to be on the feet. So for that fact, I think Court McGee has to absolutely flatline Chiesa if he wants to get him out of there. Because if Chiesa gets knocked down and Court McGee enters his guard, tries to throw some ground and pound, I think it could get him into some trouble. But I'm going to go Chiesa in this one. I'm going to go decision. But my heart's telling me round 2. There could be some weird shit. Either way, Michael Chiesa, we're either going decision or submission. Moving on, Paul Craig and Rodolfo Bellato. Paul Craig's had it rough. Really has. I think there was a very short period of time there where he fought. It was around when he fought Jamal Hill. So back in 2021. Back in 2021, Paul Craig looked like an actual title contender at light heavyweight. Okay? And he truly, people were talking about his jiu-jitsu, like, hey, for a light heavyweight, if you go down into his guard, you're getting armbarred, or you're getting triangled, or you're getting dead orchard, whatever it is. Like, he was known for his striking, or for his jiu-jitsu. But what happens, just like any other fighter that's a specialist like that, is it works for a while, and then people they get matched up with you, they know that that's what they have to look out for. So they avoid that, right? And ever since people have gotten smart and have not gone on the ground with Paul Craig, because he's the same way as Charles Oliveira. He gets knocked down and he sits on his back. He's like, "Come on, bring it on, let's go, play my guard." He wants it, right? But ever since like that, he fucked up Jamal Hill and Nikita Krylov. Like people have gotten smart to it. So if they knock him down, they say, no, stand back up. Let's keep this on the feet, right? So he's a one-trick pony, and everything that we've seen, he has not fixed his striking. His striking is atrocious. It's a tale as old as time. The jiu-jitsu guys that are really good at jiu-jitsu, they don't ever learn striking, and it fucking baffles me. It baffles me. Because if Paul Craig was truly a good striker, we probably would have seen him at least fight for the title. Because he is that good on the ground, but his striking game just does not match it whatsoever. And Rodolfo Bellato is a dangerous surging prospect. Dangerous surging prospect. This is the type of guy we need in the light heavyweight division. Truly. And I think that Paul Craig is way too much of a one-trick pony for this fight to not get ended by Rodolfo. Rodolfo's got some power in his hands, fellas. Power in his hands. But he can also wrestle too. Like, he's not a slouch. So, not saying that Paul Craig will get things done on the ground if they go there, but I don't think Rodolfo is going to play that game in his guard. I really do think that Paul Craig is only dangerous in his guard. If you can get past his guard, if you can get to a side control or stay in like a top half, you're good. And I think Rodolfo is going to be smart enough, and I think Rodolfo is this is going to be ended in a TKO, probably round 1, round 2. So we could potentially see Paul Craig get cut after this. I think he's 1-3 in his last 4. Yeah, 1-4 in his last 5. So we'll probably see him get viciously knocked out here, and then cut from the roster. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully he has worked on his striking and improved in some capacity, but you just never know. There's been fight after fight that he's come back and gotten beaten by strikers, and then the next fight he shows up and seemingly hasn't gotten any better. So moving on, next one, Alonzo Menafield and Umar Sy. Umar Sy is newer into the UFC. I believe it's the second fight in the UFC, third fight in the UFC. And he's going against Alonzo Menafield. In my opinion, these odds are extremely disrespectful. Okay? Alonzo Menafield has fought a pretty impressive roster at 205. Okay? So he's 16-5. What are we doing here? Shit. He's 16-5. My computer is bugging the fuck out. Okay. Finally. His last 2 fights were his last 2 losses in recent memory were against Carlos Ulberg and Azamat Murzakanov, which we saw Azamat last weekend. Very, very talented. He's going to be a problem at 205, and we will see him fight for the title in the next couple of years. I have no doubt about that. He's one of the most talented prospects within any division we have. Very slept on. Probably because he's got the physique of an uncle that drinks fucking 12 Modelo's a day. But he's got hands, and so does Carlos Ulberg. Carlos Ulberg is very physical at 205. Heavy hands. He's on a tear as well. He's a surging kind of prospect contender. So Alonzo's only 2 losses in the last couple years have been to very, very good contenders, or prospects rather. So I think it's a bit disrespectful that they're throwing him at almost minus 500 versus a guy that's coming in and only has 2 wins against 2 no-names. Who the fuck are these guys, right? So Alonzo Menafield has fought very talented 205ers, and Omar has not. But again, there are a few things to take into account for this fight. Age, we got an 8-year discrepancy. Alonzo's 37. and we have a 4-inch reach, or a 4-inch height discrepancy, and a 7-inch reach discrepancy. Okay, I think that's where the odds makers are placing a lot of their value in this fight, is based on the physicality here of a 4-inch height advantage and the reach disadvantage and the age discrepancy. So I get where they're coming from, but as far as experience goes, Alonzo Menifield is tough to get out of there. He's a motherfucker. So I really think that this could be the underdog to take in this fight. I do. I think Omar is a little bit more of a threat submission-wise. I think, he could very well take Alonzo down, and that is most likely going to be his game plan. At least it should be. Because Alonzo has proven to be very tough to get out of there, even when he's hurt. So I really don't think that Omar is going to have much of a chance of getting Alonzo out of there on the ground, or on the feet rather. But I'm going with the big underdog here. I like Alonzo Menifield. I think that his experience is going to play a big factor in this fight. If we were talking a 25-year-old here, maybe 27-year-old, he's almost 30. I could be blowing smoke right now, but for some reason, my heart is telling me Alonzo Menifield here. I just think that the experience is going to play a very big factor in this fight. So, locking in the first big underdog of the card. Speaking of underdogs, Cody Brundage and Mansour Abdul Malik. Cody is a plus 500. Mansour is a minus 800. That is a lofty betting odd there. And I think Cody Brundage is kind of, I don't want to say he's slept on, but he's kind of disrespected a little bit here. I do think. He had a pretty tightly, in my opinion, contested fight against Bo Nickel. He hasn't really gotten dog walked by anybody. So these odds are a little weird in my opinion. Cody Brundage is a very good wrestler. Again, in the Bo Nickel fight, we saw Bo had a lot of trouble getting him to the ground. And I don't think Mansour is going to be able to get him to the ground. Mansour is a striker through and through. All of his wins are by knockout or TKO. And Cody is a wrestler. He's got okay striking for someone that is primarily a grappler, but this is a striker versus grappler all over again. Here's how this fight's going to go. One of two ways. Mansour is going to flatline Cody, or Cody is going to implement his wrestling, and he is not going to give Mansour any space. He's got about a 7.5 inch reach disadvantage in this fight that he's going to have to overcome and figure a way out to get inside without getting tagged. But I do think that Brundage is going to be able to get a takedown here. The question is Mansour well-rounded at all? We don't know. We've really never seen him. He's got one submission. That's on the regional scene. Dude's 0-4, so he's a fucking can, right? Cody Brundage is not going to let you submit him easily. So there is absolutely no chance in my mind that Mansour wins this fight by submission. His only way to win this fight is by TKO or decision. But I don't see this fight going to a decision. Cody Brundage, I think, is going to implement his wrestling. But he'll have a hard time getting there. Just because of the reach. 7.5 inches on someone that's a really good striker and knows how to manage distance well can cause problems for those wrestlers, But on the flip side, if Mansour is too worried about the takedown threat from Cody, we could see what happened in the Sean O'Malley Marab fight, where he doesn't let his hands go because he's scared as soon as he does the takedown's going to come. So I feel like I'm a broken record here, but this is going to all depend on whether or not takedowns are going to be had. But it's always very tough even when you know stylistically it's a really good matchup, because this is like, I like this matchup a lot. It's going to be fun, and it'll be really cool to see whichever one has the game plan to negate the other's strengths. But these are the hard ones to pick when you see a good stylistic matchup with odds like this, because everything in our head sees that minus 800 and we go, fuck, we don't want to bet against that guy. Like, that's a stout betting odd. But at the same time, like, is it a little bit of an undeserving betting odd? Potentially. I think a little bit. Are they disrespecting Cody Brundage a little bit? Maybe. So there's two underdogs right here, Alonzo Menafield and Cody Brundage, that typically when you see this large of a betting underdog, like, there's a pretty good reason as to why. Here, I'm not really seeing as to why. Alonzo Menafield has much more experience and is a pretty well-rounded guy. Tough to get out of there. Same thing with Cody. Cody's got more experience in the UFC. He's fought some like okay level, like decently high level guys in the middleweight division. So, hot take here. I'm going back-to-back dogs. Back-to-back. I could be sitting here on Sunday fucking coping, but something's telling me these two are going to get it done. Plus 500, plus 450, you can make a nice buck. You parlay these two together and throw another betting favorite on there. Moving on. Ronnie Barcelones and Cody Garbrandt. Barcelos just beat Peyton Talbot and exposed Peyton Talbot's inability to get up and exposed his lack of a ground game. And Cody Garbrandt is Cody Garbrandt, one of the most inconsistent fighters in the last 10 years. He had a lot of potential, but has had a very tough time stringing things together over the last eight years. That's crazy, right? Like, he was on a fucking tear, so good, and then he got to the UFC and he met TJ Dillashaw, and that all changed. And ever since that rematch with the rematch with TJ Dillashaw, he's been few and far between. Doesn't fight very often. Gives us a really good performance, and then comes in and looks like he doesn't belong. What happens is the UFC feeds him people that are cans, right? If you look at this here, he's lost to everyone that he should have lost to. Rafael Asuncao, you should knock out Rafael Asuncao. Lost to Rob Font, probably should lose to Rob Font. Lose to Kai Kara France, 100% should lose to Kai Kara France. And then you get Trevin Jones and Brian Kelleher here. It's like, okay, you should beat those guys if you're going to be in any sort of conversation in the bantamweight division. And then lost to Davison. So it's very apparent that Cody Garbrandt is good for one thing and one thing only, and that's beating people that are not that good and creating an illusion that he's a somewhat elite fighter. And you got Ronnie Barcelos, I don't know why I keep wanting to say Barcelos, that is an old, tough bastard. That's the only way to put it. He is a tough bastard. At 38 years old, I hope to God I'm half the man Barcelos is. But he is, for 38 years old, he's a very, very talented vet. He's got an incredibly good pace. His cardio is similar to, like a Marab or that Gustafsson guy that we just saw fight, where it can certainly be weaponized. Like, he's got that kind of pressure where he just breaks fools. And I think that he's gonna beat Garbrandt. I do. I think Cody Garbrandt's gonna be looking for the one shot, that overhand right that he throws from his back pocket, and I don't think that Barcelos is gonna be hanging out in that distance very often. I think he's either gonna be at like leg kick distance, he's gonna be chopping up Garbrandt's legs, or he's gonna be in close, making it a dirty boxing fight, and ultimately getting those takedowns. I think we're gonna see a couple takedowns that are from the body lock. I could see a couple inside trips for Barcelos here, But I do think he's going to overwhelm Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt only has one method of getting him out of there, and Barcelos has quite a few. I think Barcelos is pretty talented on the feet. It's not like Garbrandt is way better of a striker than Barcelos, but I think Barcelos is gonna break Garbrandt, and we could potentially see a decision win for Barcelos here. But I don't think that Garbrandt's gonna pose really any huge threats to Barcelos. Moving on, Edmund Shabazian and Andre Petroski. Edmund Shabazian is one of those guys that I thought when he first came in the UFC, I was like, okay, this Edmund guy, he's damn good. I want to say he came into the UFC like undefeated or very close to it. Yeah. So he's had some little bit of struggles since the UFC. Very similar to Garbrandt, right? He beat these guys that he should beat: Antonio Jones, Darren Stewart, Charles Bird, Jack Marshman, Brad Tavares. Then he fought some like relatively decent guys: Derek Brunson, Jack Hermanson, Nasruddin Imavov. Can't fucking talk today. So, like he was in the same boat, fighting scrubs, fought some real guys, got exposed, fought another fucking scrub, then fought Fluffy, fought AJ. So again, like he's winning the ones that he should, and he's losing the ones that really matter. Like if you're what is he, 28, 27, so he's a pretty young guy. If you're 27, you should be beating the Derek Brunsons of the world. This was before Derek Brunson was, this was kind of the start of his decline, right? You should potentially be beating a Jack Hermanson. Jack Hermanson is kind of the gatekeeper of this division, like if you can beat the Joker, good, move on. If not, you're not ready yet. Same thing, Nasruddin just knocked out Israel. He's the man. So he's not high level, or at least he hasn't beat any high level guys. And Andre Petroski is kind of a dog. I like Petroski in this fight. I think that he is a little bit more well-rounded than Shabazian. I think that mentally he's in a better spot than Shabazian. He's three-fight win streak right now, and Shabazian is struggling to throw some stuff together. So that plays a huge role in this shit. A lot of this stuff is mental. And when you got a guy like Shabazian that was the man, he was undefeated, he came in the UFC and started a streak and yada, 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 and then he faces some adversity, like, that fucks with guys. And, like, there's a lot of mental battles that I'm sure Edmund is going through before this fight. And Andre's feeling good. 3-fight streak. Let's go. And Petroski is a very good wrestler. And I think that he's going to pose some issues for Edmund on the ground. Edmund's going to try and keep this on the feet. I can guarantee that. But Petroski is a very physical dude at middleweight. Big motherfucker. It's crazy that he makes 185. And I think he's going to be a little bit too much for Edmund. I do. I think we're going to see a finish in this one. I don't think we're going to go to a decision. How he's going to get that finish, I'm a little uncertain. But I'm going to take Andre Petroski here. So another underdog. Not a huge one, but another underdog. So some decent money to be made on this card. I'll be the first one to say it. I'm tired of Rose Namajunas co-main events. There, I said it. Sue me. I said it, guys. I just am. I don't know how many more of these I can do. All props to Rose. Back 5 years ago, I thought she was a lot more of an exciting fighter to watch. She still, to this day, has one of my most core memories as an MMA fan when she knocked out Wei Li. Like, that was fucking tits. But She hasn't done anything like that since that fight. She just hasn't. And she's just boring. She's a fucking decision fighter, and that's all we get out of her now. She's 2-3 in her last 5. And what's weird about Rose is that she's still kind of young, right? Like, she's technically in her prime, but for being in her prime, like, I feel that she hit her prime earlier on, like in her late 20s. Like, that was when Rose was really kicking ass. And lately, it's just... Look, everyone feels a certain way about Pat Barry and his relationship, and I do think that he's not a great coach, and he's probably bottlenecking her ability. If she was still training and under Trevor Whitman, we'd probably be seeing a different Rose, but I'm pretty sure it's just Pat Barry and some other fucking weirdos in her corner now. I don't think she's training with Whitman, so that was probably the biggest nail in her coffin. And then you got Miranda Maverick, who is on a 3 or 4 fight win streak. It might even be bigger than that. 4, okay. Last loss was against Jasmine Jusadibikis, who is pretty legit, right? Just saw her have a good performance a month or so ago, if I'm not mistaken. But Miranda is kind of like this, younger up-and-comer, and she's physically impressive. Very Kayla Harrison-esque. And so I think that there's going to be a little bit of a physicality issue here. Rose Namajunas is not going to be able to knock Miranda out. I don't see a world where that happens. I'm going to go ahead and say this is either going to be a very, very boring decision fight, or we're going to see Miranda Maverick just dog walk Rose. But I think Thug Rose is seeing the best of her days unless she changes camps and gets rid of that fucking weirdo. I don't. I think we have seen the best of Rose Namajunas, and it's very weird to say that for someone that's 32. If she was 35, 37, I could see that being, more of a thing. But it's so weird to say for a 32-year-old who is technically in her physical prime that we've seen the best of her. I just think skill development-wise, there's not much that she's been doing that has been noticeable, right? And for 32, you should still be developing your skills. Not saying that if she was 37, she shouldn't, but I can tell you one thing. Miranda Maverick's skill development is still taking place. We see it every time she gets in the octagon. There's little improvements, whether it's in her striking or takedown defense, whatever you want to talk about, right? So I think Rose is kind of stalled out in her skill development, and it's caused a lot of issues. So I'm going to go with Miranda Maverick here. That's 3 dogs in a row. Not in a row, but you know what I'm saying. There's some dogs that we can take here. We got a plus 215. We got a plus 160. We got a plus 500. We got a plus 450 that we're going with. This is the card of the underdogs. We're either going to come back on Sunday very fucking happy, or we're going to come back on Sunday with our tail between our legs and say, we were wrong. But for betting on underdogs, I like this card. I really do. I think that stylistically, these matchups are really good, and some of these odds are quite inflated. So we got a good card for underdogs. Moving on, the main event. Kamaru, the Nigerian nightmare, Usman versus Joaquin Buckley. I talked about it a little earlier in this fight, or in this video. This is like your standard changing of the guards kind of fight, right? Kamaru Usman, does he still have what it takes to ward off these young, hungry title contenders? We'll see. Things aren't looking good, right? I mean, he went on a tear, guy. Like, people underestimate how good of a champion Kamaru Usman was. He got a lot of flack because sometimes he had boring fights, yada, yada, yada. But he defended his title 6 times and had 3 finishes and 3 decisions. That's pretty good. You can't expect every single fight to be a finish, even though we would like it to be. But he was a great champion, and he was active, and he was dominant. There for a while, it was like, who the fuck is going to beat this guy? Very similar to like Merab right now. Who is going to beat that guy? That's what people were saying about Kamaru in 2021. And then he ran into Leon Edwards, got that late 5th round knockout head kick, and then he lost again in a rather competitive decision against Leon, and then lost against Khamzat, which he gave Khamzat a very tough 3-round fight, took it on short notice, and it was great. Like, he performed well. So, not saying, if you're just looking on paper and you see 3 losses, you go, oh shit, does this guy still have it, right? But if you look at the actual fights themselves, they were competitive fights, good fights. It's not like he got dog walked in either one of these, you know? That leg kick doesn't happen, we might still see Kamaru Usman as a champ. He keeps that confidence, he keeps rolling, right? So, keep that in mind. He might be 38, but the only 3 losses that he's had in the UFC are against the former champ Leon and one of the most talented, violent, and scary prospects in the entire UFC. Or he's a contender now, but at the time, you know. And then you got Joaquin Buckley, who came on the scene and made a statement, most famously known for his wild, like, I don't even know what you would call that. Where is it? Abdul Razak Hassan. No, that wasn't it. When did he do that? There it is. Damn, that was 5 years ago. So yeah, he came in, he was part of the class of like Kevin Holland and Khamzat, of when the UFC was the only promotion putting fights on during COVID. These guys were like, I want to fight all the time, right? He fought 4 times in 2020. He fought twice in 2021, 4 times in 2022, 4 times in 2024. So this guy's active, and he's been putting together some very impressive wins. Only 2 losses in recent years are against current champ and Chris Curtis, which Chris Curtis always brings a tough fight. He's got heavy hands. He's not easy to get out of there. So again, like, both of these guys, the only losses that they've had recently are against tough opponents, and they are both very well-rounded. But this is going to stay on the feet. I think Kamaru Usman is going to definitely try and wrestle, but I don't think that he's going to be able to get Joaquin down unless it's a perfectly timed takedown. Joaquin, I will say, does have a little bit of a tendency sometimes to get sloppy. He does have good striking, but he does get caught up in those firefights where he starts winging punches from left field and leaves his chin very open, and also leaves his hips open for a quick double leg if it's timed correctly. So I don't think that Kamaru is going to implement a ton of wrestling, but if Joaquin starts putting it on him early, I could see him trying to time a good takedown. I think his best bet for getting a takedown on Joaquin is going to be in the middle of the octagon. If he tries a takedown against the fence, I don't think he's going to be strong enough to connect his hands behind the butt. I think Joaquin's going to have a pretty good split sprawl and work on breaking the grip. So I think if he's going to be shooting any takedowns, it needs to be in the middle of the octagon during those exchanges. But this is, again, a very, very tough one to call, because you've got an absolute vet, former dominant champion in Kamaru Usman that's run into some adversity as of late, and then you got Joaquin Buckley that's just this surging contender that's been putting on really, really fun fights and getting tough guys out of there. So, man, my head and heart are conflicted here. Really. My head's telling me that Kamaru is his experience is going to play a very big role in this fight, and that, you know, It's 5 rounds. Joaquin Buckley, I don't know if he's gone 5 rounds more than twice, maybe? Maybe once? Never been 5 rounds. I thought he had a main event against... Oh, I guess that one was probably 5 rounds, but it didn't go 5 rounds. So he's never been past the 3rd round. Whereas Kamaru Usman has a wealth of experience in the championship rounds. So I think if it gets past the 3rd round, we could see Kamaru Usman really start to pull away. But Joaquin Buckley has a very good shot of ending this fight within the first 3 rounds. So I think you could put in a couple bets on this fight. You could go Joaquin Buckley by finish, or you could go Kamaru Usman money line by decision, because I could see that being the way that this goes. And Kamaru does not have sloppy striking, okay? I'm not trying to make it sound like this is a grappler versus, or a wrestler versus striker, striker versus striker. Kamaru's got good striking. Not saying he's going to do to Joaquin what he did to Street Jesus, Jorge, but his striking's not to be slept on. So I'm going to go with Joaquin, but there's a really annoying voice in the back of my head telling me that Kamaru is going to get it done. So we're going to lock in Joaquin Buckley, but I don't feel good about it. But to recap, a lot of fun fights, stylistically some good matchups. We've got some great betting underdogs to take advantage of right now, at least why these margins are still where they're at. We could see these close a little bit once we get closer to fight day, especially once weigh-ins happen. We could see these change a little bit. But man, I think for a fight night, this is what we want to see as UFC fans, right? This is a fight night. A fight night is not what we got at the end of May by a Macy Barber and Aaron Blanchfield fight card with a bunch of fucking no names on it. Like even the prelims here are more name worthy than the early prelims were on the most recent pay-per-view with Sean O'Malley and Merab, right? Like established guys. This is what I was talking about. And I'm going on a short rant here, but I'll make it quick. But Ricky Simone, Charles Jourdain, Malcolm Wellmaker, Michael Chiesa, Paul Craig, Alonzo Menafield, Cody Garbrandt. Like, those are the types of guys that you would expect to see on a prelim. They're not on a pay-per-view, right? On a big pay-per-view. Those are the kind of guys that you're going to want to see, right? They're established. People know who they are. They're not necessarily in title contention, but a couple things go their way. They could, and they have some notoriety to their name. So, top to bottom, like, other than this first fight, which it could end up being fun, like, we got all fun fights. Again, this one might be a little bit of a snoozer, but 2 out of the fights that are on this card could potentially be snoozers. The rest, I think, are going to be really fun matchups. But a lot of money to be made on these underdogs, I think, this week, even more so than last week. So let me know in the comments what you think is going to go down with the main event. Do you see Kamaru Usman warding off a surging contender, or do we see Joaquin Buckley successfully have a changing of the guards and put himself into legit title contention after this weekend? Be very interesting to see. But either way, appreciate you stopping by. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.